it and throw away. You will not know it.
They likewise come with dignifying aesthetics. However you choose to blow your flute, remember there will always be a colorful and unifying sound to feel amongst the cultures.
Achieving our mandate is our goal to make it happen. We engage your eyeballs. Thank you for keeping the date with your favorite programs on NTA. We call it a treat. You call it a feast. A menu of inviting delicacies just for you. Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year from all of us at NTA. NTA, it's all about you.
Pope Francis urges world leaders to come together to fight terrorism. Christians held church services to mark the new year. Communities in southern Kaduna urged to embrace dialogue to end violent crisis. And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we discuss how to make Nigeria great. It's a brand new year, 2017. Welcome. What was 2016 like for you? These are no doubt challenging times for many and the country, Nigeria, and you could say the same in varying degrees with other countries around the world. Well, indeed, blessing. Development patterns, these days seem to defy established norm that we have come to, of course, expect things to pan out. Now, if you take, for instance, resource-rich Nigeria, the question you would ask is, why is it that despite her huge potentials, Nigeria is still being talked about, more than 50 years after independence? Okay, like today, Nigeria has huge population alongside its potentials, huge cultivable land to produce her food, and also the other needs, which is largely unused, but spends a fortune importing food. It has iron ore, but no vibrant steel industry, which is necessary for industrial production. It also has, Nigeria, of course, has its own hundreds of minerals, but no viable exploitation of the same, and the country is a known crude oil producer with huge quantity of gas. But then,
all right, blessing, indeed, huge quantities of gas, not just gas. We've had Nigeria is endowed with so many human and natural resources, and of course, the question that we will be asking is, with all of this, why is it that Nigeria has continued to struggle in a world where far less endowed countries are, acknowledged globally to have made tremendous progress. Countries like Singapore, for instance, Malaysia and Japan, just to mention a few of them, without a tenth of the resources that Nigeria has. these are countries that have made progress and, in fact, are making progress, are world leaders in some areas. But Nigeria is nowhere, or rather, should we say, we are still developing when, compared with these countries.
So much questions to ask, really, because at independence in 1960, Nigeria was globally acknowledged to have the potential to become a first-rate country, and the indications in those early days gave every hope that this will be the case. Why is that different 50 years after, and there's still the talk of just this potential that Nigeria has? In fact, there seems to be a regression instead of progress. Flashes of brilliance, such example you have when Nigeria came to be rated 5th in the global football after the 1994 World Cup, disappeared almost immediately. Why? Why?
Now, comparatively, Blessing, the question again that we would be asking is what is it, that other countries are doing right to make progress that Nigeria isn't doing? Now, what practices or principles have worked for those countries, and why has Nigeria not adopted any of these methods to, develop what was Nigeria doing at independence that it made her to be seen as a country with the capacity to become an advanced nation, of course, which we have not really attained. Now, those are some of very, very salient questions, Blessing, that everybody is asking.
Well, the questions will still continue, because even as you observe your public holiday, those are reasons that people, at the beginning of each year, people tend to see what they can do differently. So, and if we may further ask, what can Nigeria do going forward? Or is there no hope that the narrative about Nigeria can be changed? I believe it can. Sure, there must be something that can be done, and we have the people, we have the resources, don't we? These are some of the poses we'll be seeking answers to on Good Morning Nigeria today, being the first one in the first month of the brand new year 2017. My name is Blessing Abu. Welcome to today's edition of the program. It's coming to you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
All right, and I join Blessing in wishing you a happy, a happy and prosperous new year. I am Claire Delabu Abdurazak. And of course, in the course of the program this morning, we have other companion segments, including newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and arts and entertainment. But we go to the newsroom now. And the big Sam Obunde is our guide. Sam, good morning and Happy New Year to you.
Good morning, ladies. Happy New Year and good morning, Nigeria. Here is the news. The Catholic Pontiff, Pope Francis, has urged world leaders to come together and fight the plague of terrorism, just as he appealed for more efforts on youth unemployment. Pope Francis made the appeal in his message as the world entered a new year.
Unfortunately, violence has stricken even in this night of good wishes and hopes. I express my closeness to the Turkish people. I pray for the many victims and for the wounded and for the entire nation in mourning.
Nigerians have been asked to put their faith into action by looking inward, focusing on God, and doing what is right for the upliftment of the country. The senior pastor of Christ International Community Church, Columbus, Ohio, USA, Dr. Simbo Dunaya, gave the admonition while welcoming the congregation into the new year.
Take a look at ourselves. What do we do? What do we condone? When we go to the market, what do we condone? When we go to a government office, what do we condone? What do we allow to happen? As Christians, should we be allowing those things to happen?
Messages of love, tolerance, perseverance, and faithfulness characterize the New Year services in Ekiti State. The Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Kayode Fayemi, and the APC Deputy National Chairman, Chief Shegun, were among worshippers who advocated the need for Nigerians to live in peace and unity to achieve the rapid transformation of the country.
Message really is the message that in all that we do, we must give thanks to God. We must remain persistent in our commitments. We must remain faithful.
2017 has been projected to be a year of economic recovery for Nigeria. This was the central message at the first Sunday service of the year of some white garment churches.
Bright. That's when God shows his power most. As many people as are not involved in the shedding of innocent blood, in corruption, in doing evil, this is the time when they will shine.
This is the time for us to go closer to God and pray for the betterment of this country, not to apportion blame to anybody.
As Nigerians celebrated New Year as elsewhere in the world, religious leaders have been pleading with the people to remain steadfast in prayers with expectations for better days in 2017. This was the message at various Pentecostal church services to mark the new year.
Praying and trusting God. God, no doubt, will intervene supernaturally.
Nigerians arise, rise above the adversity. No adversity is bigger than you.
This is a process of speedy grace where God is going to shower in his blessing uncountable to all that believed in him and hoped.
As part of efforts to support the Nigerian prison to rehabilitate inmates, the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion in Abuja has donated items to Kuje Prison in Abuja. Donating the items, leader of the delegation, Venerable Irawa Ndanusa, advised the inmates to focus on God and repent from their wrongdoing so that they can be better members of the society.
Ours is to walk according to the commandment of our Lord Jesus Christ. For us to reach out those who are in the prison.
Not only the items brought, but we also value the preachers. The preachers can go in a long way in helping us correct our inmates.
Receiving the items, the Deputy Controller, Kuje Prison, Akilo Abdullahi, thanked the church for the gesture. Efe Flourish Ogenetega is the first baby of the year in Abuja. She was delivered a second after midnight at the Gwaripa General Hospital of the Federal Capital Territory. Wife of the President, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, in her message, congratulated the parents and the management of the hospital for producing the first baby of the year in Abuja.
We are here on behalf of Her Excellency Mrs. Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, with the support of the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, to bring special package not only to the first baby of the year here in the hospital, but to other babies.
And to Bauchi, where the wife of the governor, Hadiza Abubakar, has given gifts to orphans and those on admission at the Bauchi State Specialist Hospital. The gesture is in the spirit of the season.
First baby of the year 2017. We saw the baby, it's a male child, and our prayer is may he be a source of inspiration to his family.
Minister of Interior Abdulrahman Bello Ampazao has enjoined Nigerians to use festive periods to show kindness to those in unpleasant situations. Abdullahi Mustafa reports that he made the appeal after visiting Central Prison and some rehabilitation centers in Kano.
God has given you the opportunity, but you don't appreciate it really until you visit those who are less privileged.
Southern Kaduna communities have been enjoined to embrace dialogue and forgiveness as the surest way towards a lasting peace in the area. Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris stated this during a fact-finding visit to Dogua and Goska villages of Jama'ah local government area in Kaduna State.
Know what is happening on the ground and to get, to be in touch with the people from the areas so that we can initiate some dialogue to see whatever is on the ground, we try to address it.
In Islam and Christianity, which I do know, there's no religion on earth that preach violence. A lot of blood has flown in this very land. People have been killed. The crisis that happened in Kafanchan is not welcome. It's supposed not to be.
That's the news for now. We'll be back to Blessing and Claire, who from their looks had a great new year beginning from what I see. After this break, they'll be here to continue with the program.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember,
Only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Hear the call of change, stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let the change begin from within. Look at you, oh Geruola. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with
The climax of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration is here. Join President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, the Minister of Defense, service chiefs, heads of paramilitary organizations, the diplomatic corps, and the Nigerian veterans as Nigeria appreciates the resilience of the armed forces, remembers the contributions of her veterans to internal and world security, as well as honor those who paid the supreme price to give us peace. Welcome to the National Cenotaph and Wreath-laying ceremony as Nigeria marks the Armed Forces Remembrance Day. The sacrifice of our serving heroes, living veterans, and those gone beyond, and the families they left behind cannot be forgotten. There will be free medical outreach on January 15th for both veterans and VIPs to check their health status in all 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. Venue, the Cenotaph, National Arcade, 3 Arms Zone, Abuja. Time, 8:30 a.m. Date, 15th January 2017. Appreciating the resilience of the Nigerian Armed Forces. Don't miss it. Announcer, Brigadier General Rabe Abubakar for National Planning Committee.
Yes, how did the business fare in the last quarter of the year, the last moments? Oh, let's find out from Joy Uzo. She says Nigerians call for concerted effort to improve the nation's economy this 2007. As experts in the hospitality and tourism industry urge the government to tap into the rich potentials it offers to attract better investment opportunities.
The different sectors that make up the economy have performed well over time. One of such is the tourism and hospitality sector. With its vast untapped potentials, the industry has and is still contributing immensely to the economy. Critically, it has contributed in creating jobs for Nigerians, as the numerous hotels and tourist attractions employ millions annually. In an interview in November, the former DG of the Nigeria Tourism Development Corporation, Salim Banefo, said that the hospitality and tourism sector generated over $1.1 billion in 2015. Those in the tourism industry say this figure could have been improved upon in 2016, but for the recession and its attendant consequences. A practitioner in the industry and national president, Hospitality and Tourism Management Association of Nigeria, Mr. Aliu Badaki, told NTA Business News that central to maximizing the vast opportunities in the industry is the creation and sustenance of an enabling environment. He listed some of the challenges affecting the sector to include reliable statistics, epileptic power supply, inadequate infrastructure, difficulty in gaining travel visa, multiple taxation, as well as absence of uniformed standardization and classification for hotels nationwide.
The business you are running and 40% of your proceeds or expenses go to power. You can hardly survive. So not to talk of having that return on investment. You find that most hotels, they almost shut down. Some shut down, converted their buildings. Some laid off staff. Some reduced salaries. Some couldn't even pay salary.
It stressed the need for investors to tap into the abundant opportunities that abound in the sector, adding that government has a key role to play in making the environment suitable for such investments to thrive. Meanwhile, Nigerians have commended the present administration for its effort in repositioning the nation's economy, while praying that results of such effort will generate a level playing ground for businesses to thrive in 2017. A cross-section of Nigerians spoke with NTA Business News at the popular Wuse Market, Abuja, expressing their views on areas they expect to witness changes this 2017.
The government, they are trying their best, but the best is not enough. If people are happy and things are okay, I think we should expect more flow in this market. You can see how it is, Abuja for that matter. People are not coming out to patronize them. People are not coming to buy because there is no money in circulation.
As we sit down, nothing. Farting, we don't see people. If we eat in our hala this year, I beg you, may that kind of thing not happen for Nigeria again.
There are increases in almost everything in the market. And then the government itself did not increase salaries, especially workers. So we are paying through our nose, and it's not too easy.
2016, I must say, has not been quite easy, but God has been faithful. We are believing and trusting that things will get better in 2017.
And Nigerians are optimistic that it will get better because of who is in charge. His integrity and everything. His past record has been good. I hope he doesn't let us down because we voted him for change, like he said.
Recession is global. It's not limited to Nigeria. So if something is global, it gives us opportunity to retrace our steps, to see what we're doing wrong, to see what we're doing right, and to get it better. So this recession has taught us a lot of things. And one thing that gives me joy is that we were able to look inwards. The government said, yes, we can grow rice and eat our own rice.
They also called for speedy deliberation on passage and assent of the 2017 budget. This, they say, will bring about a new and positive turnaround in the economy. Next is a graphic summary of last trading figures on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange for the year 2016. The NSE All-Share Index finished at 0.34%. With Business News, I am Joy Uzo.
All right, many thanks, Joy, for that positive prediction for 2017. That's the new year. Now we're moving on. It's Good Morning Nigeria. If you've just joined us, it's the brand new edition in the year 2017. Coming up next after the break will be the newspaper review. Stay with us.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
One opportunity leads to many. Dial *141# to get Jobberman, Airtel One Touch, and many more without data charges. Only on Airtel.
It's that time of the year when we appreciate all those that mean so much to us. Our sponsors, our clients, government at all levels, corporate bodies, advertisers, religious bodies, civil society groups, political parties, business, and above all, you, our esteemed viewer. Together, we made 2016 great. Together, we shall make 2017 even greater. That's why we say thank you. Merry Christmas and prosperous New Year.
We'd like to welcome Bayato Ebi, this brand new season of his review. More to review, I'm sure. Happy New Year, Bayo.
Happy New Year, blessing. Happy New Year, prayer.
Is there any New Year touch?
Happy New Year. May 2017 prosper, peace, contentment in our hearts, in our home, and in our nation.
What more can we pray for? Amen. Okay, let's start off the review. Claire, you want to take the first shot? Brand new review.
All right, let's begin, of course, with the Nation newspaper. And the Nation, of course, has quite a number of trending stories on its front page. And there you have it. The lead story is Nigerians are hungry. Mbaka tells Buhari. That's, of course, the major news right there. You'll find other stories. Rivers, Army recovers beheaded police officers' uniforms and rifle. Of course, that's talking about the of course, inspector or DSP Alkali, who was beheaded during the rural elections. And other stories trending there, you'll find other ministers of God to the left-hand corner there. Adeboye and Oyedepo also making their own various predictions right there on the front page of the Nation newspaper. And we'll move on now to other papers. Of course, I have Daily Trust with me, and Daily Trust is leading with the report. EFCC yet to submit report to National Assembly 3 months after deadline. That's the right of that. And there are other stories just below the nameplate. Federal government agencies budget billions for foreign training despite embargo. It's on page 3. Now, used car dealers list challenges as land import ban begins. The story details of that you can find on page 19. And you'll find the picture story, of course, making the front page this morning. It's a New Year service at the Cathedral of St. Michael in Kaduna yesterday. Other trending stories at the bottom there, of course, engaging ones. You find gunmen kidnap Kogi ruler, demand 20 million naira, and Buhari's aide condemns killing of Nigerian in South Africa. That's the outlook of the Daily Trust. Blessing.
Okay, let me start off with this day paper before we go to the other papers we have with us. This day is leading with the story. Let's have that on screen. Bank CEOs hinge 2017 economic performance on fiscal reforms. And that's the way this day captures it. You have just above the nameplate, you have other stories that is displayed right there. But moving further down, we have the photograph of Ambode and the fiesta to actually usher in the new year. It was a splendid feature as shown on the screen. Well, yes, for those who monitored anyway, at the Bar Beach, noted for so many activities. Okay, from this day, let's quickly go to the authority. I have authority paper still with me to the house. Just above the nameplate, we have Ifeanyi Uba advocates more solid social contracts between leaders and the led. That's what you find on page 6. 2017 will perform better. Governors, National Assembly assure Nigerians. That's what story you find on page 4. And still with page 4, Borno youth hypnotize teenagers to rape them. This is coming from NSCDC. You find that story on the 4th page of the paper, like I said. Niger Delta people stand for Nigeria's unity, Wike tells Sultan. With a rider, we are not interested in breakup of the country. That story starts right there but continues on page 2. That is the leading headline for the authority this morning. And you have the photograph of, from left, you have the Zamfara State Governor, Abdulaziz Yari, the Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Saad Abubakar III, River State Governor, Yesom Wike, and his Sokoto State counterpart, Aminu Waziri Tambuwa, during Wike's visit to the Sultan's Palace in Sokoto at the weekend. Alison Madueke Ex-VC Ejike joined Ohaneze leadership race. That story starts right there, but continues on page 2. Bayo.
Yes, New Year is an occasion for messages, and predictably, religious leaders have come forward to predict that there will be prosperity and things will improve from the current situation. You know, Nigerians revel in this open year activity of looking out for predictions, and they read them critically. However, one of such reverend fathers who has been taking the courage to speak the truth to power is Reverend Ejike Mbaka. He advised President Muhammadu Buhari that he should make deliberate effort and get experts to help him revive the economy. He says in the new year, in his New Year message, which was held as his crossover service for 2017, he says, though the president has tried in tackling corruption and insecurity, Nigerians are hungry and want to see more changes. He enjoyed the tackling of the challenge the country is facing through robust leadership. According to him, many Nigerians are suffering. They want to see more changes. There is need to assist the businessmen and businesswomen, and that I think it is also in line with the policy of government to diversify and also use the private sector to as the economic stimulation for the economy. Reverend Baka also added that President should consult church leaders and eminent men of God. They should advise him because they will be able to tell him the truth and the position as far as the economy is concerned. And he has a message for Nigerians. He said, the future is bright for Nigeria. The suffering will soon be over, and Nigerians should get set that things will be better in 2017. Also in Sokoto, Governor Yesu Wike visited Sokoto, and he stated categorically that the leaders and the people of Niger Delta are strongly in support of a united Nigeria. He said the people and the leaders are not interested in any struggle of separating Nigeria or dismembering Nigeria. He says it is in the interest of Nigeria and indeed Africa to have a Nigeria that will serve the interest of a united continent. And therefore the interest of Africa and Nigeria will be better served at a united Nigeria. He was actually in Sokoto to grace the wedding of his colleague, Governor Aminu Waziri Tambuwal, gave out his daughter in marriage. And so when he paid the courtesy call on the Sultan, and then he chose to make that nationalistic pronouncement.
Okay, let's take a look at another paper. We'll take a look at the Punch. The Punch newspaper. We have the Punch newspaper as well in the house this morning. Yes, for the Punch, we have change economy policies. PDP, TUC urge Buhari, New Year Day speech. President's recovery plan inadequate. This is coming from the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, as well as the other chambers of commerce and industry. Change economic policies. Well, let's move down to other activities right there. Of course, we have the military recovering, army recovers policemen's uniform and some other, okay, that is the one story Claire actually took on earlier, the rifle of the slain inspector. Exactly. Gunmen abduct the DSP. Gunmen abduct Ajakuta monarch and also demand some amount of money right there. Well, there's some other stories there. Bayo?
Yes, it's the Ozi of Ajakuta.
Yes, just before you start, I'd like you to take this as well because it has to do with policies, economic policies. Yes, it's a story on page 14. That's the inside page of Daily Trust. And it says, tomato industry faces 19 billion naira loss. And I just read out some excerpts there. It says that the spokesperson of the Union of Tomato Paste Manufacturers in Nigeria, Nnamdi Nnodebe, says that total investment in the packing manufacturing sector of tomato paste valued at 19 billion naira would vanish this year unless government remove the triple concentrate tomato paste from the banned list items.
Okay, so well, you see, there are several challenges. Again, I think government will get its acts right. Initially, we had this pest that infected tomato, if you remember, in 2015, and that became a challenge for most of the tomato industries. And now, there was a rapid agricultural input, and there was recovery for that, from that tomato. The encouragement again was to ensure that tomato paste industries in Nigeria blossomed. But the concern now is that some of the paste, which is basically the raw materials, which they import to preserve the tomatoes, the can, is not included on the list, and that's why they are making that agitation for it. It will go a long way to help the economy. The other story I want to quickly draw attention to is that the federal government has recovered 40 brand new sport utility vehicles from a former permanent secretary.
SUVs.
Yes.
We read that. You were absent. Oh. It was trending on all the papers last week. On Friday, precisely.
Yes. And
but there's a story to that, yes. They don't belong to the federal government. I think that story also trended over the weekend. Yes. Gotten over 40 vehicles. It must be a super. I think it was a story that was credited to the FCC that the vehicles do not belong to the federal government.
Okay, so yes. Good to hear that. But the other aspect of it is that the federal government has also put into motion a measure by which to use electronic means to follow and monitor asset declaration. The Minister of Information gave indication of this, and he said that government, apart from prosecuting those caught in the web of corruption, was also putting in place preventive measures. And it will be, some of these measures to be introduced include a presidential committee on assets recovery. This asset tracking committee will also be instituted, an asset register, and a recent whistleblower initiative. You remember policy that was introduced where you get a range of between 2.5 and 5% over fraud that you blow a whistle about. So all those are said to be part of the initiative. However, the celebrations for the New Year was mad in Turkey, Istanbul. Yes. On the New Year day, a gunman went into a club and he used a gun and shot and killed 39 persons. It is said that 67 others were injured. Among the victims are nationals of several countries. In fact, there are about 27 of them are from Middle East, others are from Israel, Canada, and India. These were reveling for the New Year, and this gunman went in there and created sin. Nobody so far has claimed a responsibility for it. But the Prime Minister of Turkey, Binali Yildirim Garvey, has made two clarifications. He said, first, the gunman left the gun, and in the chaos that ensued, he mingled with the people and left. Secondly, nobody has claimed responsibility for it so far. Thirdly, the rumor that the attacker was wearing Santa Claus attire, it has been debunked that it was false.
Yeah, there was a footage, actually, with camera. It was caught on CCTV.
Yes.
All right, Bayo, before we thank you, someone is echoing the topic of our conversation this morning. And again, that's, of course, Reverend Father Ejike Mbaka. Inside this day, the Daily Trust, he says, Nigeria is set to be great again. So he's making the prediction that we're about to discuss on today's program. Thank you, Bayo. We'll see you again on the third day of January 2017. All right, have a good day.
It's secondary.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. And again, our topic for discussion this morning is how we can make Nigeria great. That will commence after this break.
Certainly, Ajunwa is the Olympic champion.
We did it before and we can do it again with the new strategy through the first National Grassroots Sports Festival scheduled for Abuja, Nigeria from 22nd to 29th April 2017 to prepare Nigeria to win medals in international sporting events. NTA, the largest television network in Africa, is the broadcast partner. For sponsorship, contact the Chairman Chief Coordinator on 0809 647 0111 or Mukta on 080-330-20855. Email info@grassrootssportsfestival.com. The Grassroots Sports Festival is endorsed and in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development. Join us.
Another victim of slimming mixtures and all sorts of herbs.
Bond you! Now she was dying.
Caroline, she is not dead, just comatose.
She was chopped tomatoes?
This week on your award-winning comedy series, Professor John Bull, starring Kanayo Okanayo, Mercy Johnson, Queen Wokoye, Yomi Fash Lanso, Stephen Odingbe.
So you guys like all vegetables? These are leafy vegetables. Spinach, spirulina, barley grass. It's all the great stuff.
Please watch it, because the way you're going and you're drinking this thing, very soon I see person they talk. They know they see the person now only voice and sound.
Professor John Bull, this Tuesday and Friday, 8:30 to 9 p.m. on NTA Network, International, and Star Times.
Ow!
It's yummy.
Fundament.
Over and out. Welcome to the new speed of life.
NTA Properties Investment Company Limited, a subsidiary of the Nigerian Television Authority, specializes in creating comfort in all areas of life, such as real estate investments, that is, land, houses, and office spaces, mass leasing, savings and loan scheme, household items and car loans, and so much more. Other information and entertainment services include Property in Style, a TV program that airs on the network service of the NTA, and also Property Connect, a nationwide magazine. Our priority is to bridge poverty gaps and sustain quality welfare of our clients. Partner with us and watch us help you grow. Pay us a visit today at the NTA headquarters permanent site, Area 11 Garki, Abuja, or our Lagos office at number 15 Awolowo Road, Ikoyi, Lagos. For more information, visit our website on www.ntaproperties.com.ng, or you can email us on ntapeak2000@yahoo.com. Call us on 080-2316-3474 or 080-6939-5185 or 070-3189-0555. NTA Properties Investment Company Limited, the much needed help at your doorstep.
Because we so much believe in this nation, that's why on Good Morning Nigeria today, being the first one for the year 2017, well, proclaiming and declaring that this nation will be great as it stands today. So to lay the foundation for a discussion on greatness by choice, which we have all decided and pledged for those who prayed from the crossover night into the new year, Oyeyemi Ajayi put together this background report for us.
For years, what has been on the lips and minds of every Nigerian is how Nigeria can be great once again. After independence, Nigeria attained a big brother status, not just in Africa, but for many third world nations, probably due to our prominence and vast natural and human resources. Nigeria's big brother status resulted from our efforts in ensuring peace in the sub-region, Africa at large, and in some other parts of the world. As time went on, this prominence began to wane off due to an inability to live up to our billing. Some have blamed the decline of what seemed to be our initial greatness on the discovery of oil in Nigeria, which led to our abandoning of other revenue-earning activities, especially agriculture, which was initially the country's mainstay. Over the years, leaders of the country have made developing it a major part of political campaigns, but have not met the expectations of the people. All sorts of conferences and talk shops have been organized over the years to deliberate on the way forward for the country, but most of the recommendations have either been discarded or are gathering dust in some government offices. An elder statesman, Maitama Sule, has said, for Nigeria to be great again, the country must go back to the 1960 constitution and return to agreements reached during the independence period. He said Nigeria must also surmount its political, economic and social crises and must ensure the achievement of true national integration. The First and Second Republic politician said the norms and values inherited from the nation's founding fathers have been thrown overboard, but subsequent leaders of the country will also seem to give priority to other interests rather than national interest in administering the country. Another elder statesman, Emeka Anyoku, believes that Nigeria can be great if her leaders and people did the needful. Others have advised that the country's mineral resources, which initially earned the country good money but were abandoned, must be revisited to take Nigeria back to our initial position, while the human resources must be actively invested in, just as China did before becoming the global economic powerhouse it is today. They want an end to the blame game, while both the leaders and the people must work together to achieve a common goal, as no nation can thrive in disunity. They further suggest that Nigeria should also take cue from other developed countries and learn how they were built. As we step into a new year, how can Nigeria chart the course of getting it right? This is what will be discussed on this episode of Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, Oyeyemi Ajayi, of course, setting us up for our discussion this morning. And let's bring in our discussants and join me to welcome in the studio here in Abuja, of course, a personal development trainer and entrepreneur, and the person of Mr. Obinaya Orakpa. Mr. Orakpa, thank you very much for joining us, and Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year. And also from our Kaduna Network Center, we are being joined by a former Chief of Defense Staff of the Nigeria's Armed Forces and Commander, Joint United Nations and African Union Peacekeeping Mission in Darfur. He is General Martins Luther Agwai. General Agwai, thank you very much for joining us. And Happy New Year to you, sir.
New Year.
All right, Claire. That's in Kaduna. For our Lagos studio, we have a Professor of Philosophy, Professor Sophie Oluwole. It's our pleasure to have you join us on the program. And Happy New Year to you too, ma'am.
Happy New Year. Welcome to Great Nigeria. We shall be great again.
I love that when mommies say that. All right, also joining Professor Sophie Oluwole in the Lagos studio is a Nigerian who was named by Forbes as one of Africa's best 30 entrepreneurs, the co-founder and managing partner, Red, Mr. Chude Jidenwo. Of course, under 30 is that category. Mr. Jidenwo, Happy New Year to you. What does it feel like? A brand new year. A brand new year.
All right, let's start off, of course, by asking, let me remain in Lagos. The topic we're discussing this morning has some philosophical undertone. So I'll quickly begin with Professor Sophie Oluwole, who is, of course, a great philosopher queen herself. Professor Sophie Oluwole, under the principle of determinism and cause and effect, how can a nation be predetermined to be great, or can a nation deliberately decide or choose to be great?
Thank you very much. The man who showed the history of Nigeria gave us a good start. We were great once. Why were you great? Because you depended on your natural resources. I could remember when I was in primary school, what I see in the north is a mountain of groundnuts. The Yoruba people were producing cocoa, and the Igbos were consuming palm oil. What happened to them? They went into space when you discovered oil. Tragically, the oil in Nigeria is not exploited by Nigerians. I was discussing with a German. Why do you come to exploit us in Nigeria? I said, what do you want my child to come and do in Nigeria? Spend his life, help you to make oil and give you all the oil. He will take the oil, refine it, sell it to you at the price he likes. And if he wants to buy, he will buy the price he likes. How can you be great? Africa has the greatest resources in the world. Nigeria is one of them. If God gave us natural resources, how can you be great? Unless you exploit it. I was in the primary school. There was something on my wall. Iṣẹ́ lóògùn iṣẹ́, pray and work. That is the source of greatness. Are we working? We saw the petroleum, we got the oil, we don't know how to produce it, we don't know how to do it. They were dictating the price at the selling price, and we want to great. I think we have to change that attitude.
All right, Professor, thank you for your opening remarks. Let's again bring in Mr. Chude Jidenwo. Mr. Jidenwo, there are some people who believe that, look, to be great, a country may be predestined to be great, and of course, if that is so, then that nation has no choice but to be great. But others say, look, you choose to be great by your actions and, of course, your inactions. So what's your stance in this?
The evidence clearly favors the latter, just like Professor said. You look at the nations, the modern-day so-called miracles that we have witnessed, if it's China, if it's Rwanda, countries like Namibia, you find that these are people who took deliberate, consistent steps to build. And some of these countries, many of these countries are countries that don't have the kinds of natural advantages that we have had as a country. And so they have essentially been forced by adversity and circumstance to be innovative, to be creative, to be thoughtful about the ways that they build their countries. And most of these countries have had to build from scratch and converted nothingness into wealth. So the evidence doesn't confirm that any country is predestined to be great as much as any human being can be predestined to be great. Even if there is such a predestination, it turns out that you have to justify the promise and the trust that people have in your future.
Many thanks, Mr. Chidejudo. We'll move over now to Kaduna, where we'll introduce General Martins Luther Agwai. Thank you once again for coming on the program. But a choice is what people make of whatever they want to do in their different endeavor. Once upon a time, it was when we had strong military representing us and doing well in the different peacekeeping mission. I am glad you were one of those who actually led one in Darfur as well as other places. Now, do we make a deliberate choice to be great, or people continue to actually lose out on what it is that was their desire in the first instance? How did we get to this state?
Well, once again, good morning to everybody in Nigeria and Happy New Year. But I think being great is just like leadership. We keep hearing that people are born leaders, but I believe that all of us are born leaders and we have leadership instilled in us. But what do we do with that? We have focus of what we want to do. Yes, everybody wants to be great, but you will not sleep and be great. You have to annex all that you have, the resources, both human and material resources that you have, to be great. And anything short of it, I don't think we will be great. That's why I agree with the last two speakers that we have a lot, but just having it is not important. How do you utilize what you have for your own personal interest and not for other people's interest?
All right, General Martins Luther Agwai, thank you. We get back to our studio here, of course, Mr. Urakba himself, an entrepreneur. I was going through, work done by some professors, and something really caught my attention. In researching what makes a nation great, they said it is not the computer age, it is not innovation, neither is it, technology or even the resources. And I'm wondering then, what makes a nation great?
Thank you very much. What does Germany have? Germany doesn't have much. Value system is where it comes down to. What's our value system? Do we have a national philosophy? If you don't have a national philosophy, you're not likely to make progress. What did India do? India, then they said, if you want to drive a car, let it be an Indian made car. If you want to watch TV, let it be an Indian made TV. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Now, my guy got them to think.
I'm sorry, Mr. Binaya. We'll get back to you because we, of course, need to check your audio. In the meantime, let's again go back to Lagos. I'll begin with Mr. Jidenwa. Blessing, you have a question for him? Okay, Mr. Jidenwa, I just asked a question. I asked Mr. Obina here in the studio. What makes a nation great? If it's not the computer age, it's not innovation, it's not technology, it's not resources. But what then makes a nation great? What makes the United States, for instance, great? What makes Malaysia great? What makes Brazil great?
I think it's the collective will of its people, both the leaders and the followers. And I think that's what the Abuja-based speaker was trying to point towards, that he was talking about the national philosophy, he was talking about what he called the value system. It's really people. It's people that make countries. It's people that turn deserts into thriving hubs of culture and business. It's people that deal with the disadvantages in dominant global languages and still make their economies one of the biggest powerhouses in the world. It's people that go beyond the original sins of slavery and build more equitable societies. It's people that overcome 20 years of the most terrible genocide and begin to build an African country with the most progressive indices of better lives. It's people that won Nigeria's independence. It's people that build some of Nigeria's economies into impressive places. So yes, the professor is right. The evidence again doesn't show that it's necessarily resources or necessarily natural advantages. It's usually that a people decide to choose leaders that will take them into the future, to hold those leaders accountable, and those leaders inspire the citizens to follow, to build upon, and to progress.
All right, Mr. General, still in Lagos, yes, you've already pointed out some areas that we'll need to maybe at least let's toe that path now. Professor Oluwole, how do we determine and start to define that which Nigeria has lost? No doubt everyone agree that something is lost about this nation that is supposed to be potentially great, but we're not doing that. So let's begin to determine and define those areas that we have lost that needs reclamation.
Well, I think, let me go back, so 25 years ago, it was carried in the newspaper that professors are the ones running the government of America. In other words, 95% of the professors, of the ministers were professors. But we forget, who is a professor? It's not stupid Professor Oluwole alone. I mean, one philosophy. But let me tell you that for you to be a professor, you have a PhD. PhD in geography, in economics, and what's the meaning of a PhD? Doctor of philosophy in geography, doctor of philosophy in economics. So a professor is a doctor who has knowledge in a particular area. Now, when you allow a professor of economics to be a minister of economics, and you allow a professor of agric to be the minister, in Nigeria, you allow a son, senior advocate in Nigerian law, to be the minister of agric. What does he know about agriculture? Now, if you want to move this country forward, you must put people in charge of the different aspects of this country. People who have knowledge about banking in banking. People who have knowledge about agric in agriculture. People who have education. They don't know anything about education, and you have the man who is a doctor to go to education. You must put a professor of medicine in the faculty of medicine. And that is the development, because they are the ones to define, to determine what will be carried out in this country, to be executed. Put Professor Oluwole in banking. I will hand the money. I will call him. What do I know about banking? 2 + 2 is 5. I don't know the meaning. For this country to be great, put people who are professionals in the area where they studied. And the idea of philosophy comes in because the PhD is Doctor of Philosophy in Medicine, Doctor of Philosophy in Mathematics, Doctor of Philosophy in Law. I have a Doctor of Philosophy in Law, and you ask me to go and manage medicine. How can I do it? Now, let me remind you what I said before. Israel, look at Israel. It's a desert. They imported land from another country. They put it on the garden to plant. Nigeria have soil. What are you producing? You want to be great? I'm not talking, I know morality is all right, but even the prayer we are doing this year will be answered. But work and pray, that's what I was taught. When God created the world, he said, work for 7 days and worship me for 1 day. We are worshiping God for 7 days, and we want to develop. I don't ask you to leave God, but without work, what will God bless? So what I'm saying is development means putting the people who know about economics in economics, people who know about agriculture in agriculture. You know agriculture is doing fine. If you don't put me where I belong, what program will I make that will make Nigeria develop? The government is to run administration, but to develop this country, the right person must be in the right position as the minister. He must make the most proposals, and the proposal will move on forward. I think that is one of the greatest mistakes. We do it tomorrow, Nigeria will be greater. There are 2 things in which a nation is great in the world: your economy and your military technology. Nigeria has no source of economy. The petrol is not under our control. We don't know anything about technology, about military. So you are not one of the great powers in the world. India joined them by doing the two. What have you done to increase your economy? By your natural resources. What are you producing? Everything produced in this country are made by Indians. I was into plastic for 20 years. Everybody was an Indian. Nigeria is not making it. Everything is imported. And you want to be great? I don't know how to be great, apart from working hard, putting the right person in charge of the right ministries, people who have competence, training, not just a political appointment for House of Senate and Assembly. People to be in charge of a particular ministry must be somebody who knows what to do in that ministry, who proposes what we should do, and that's why we can be successful.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Oluwole. Back to us in Abuja studio. Mr. Orakpa, Claire asked a question beyond his areas you listed, materialism. How do you deliberately make yourself great as a nation?
You must have a vision. If you have a national vision, then you must have human capital development. Develop your people. It's people that grow a nation. If your people are not intellectually diverse in the way they understand how economy works, you're not likely to achieve what Professor said. India built their people. Israel built their people. Nigeria should build her people. And then Nigeria should have a blueprint. We have natural resources, but you need to exploit the natural resources. If you don't exploit natural resources, you're not likely to go far. You need to believe in your own resources and also benefit and patronize made in Nigeria. The way I'm dressed is made in Nigeria, made by a young Nigerian fashion designer. Do we patronize them? The Central Bank of Nigeria has banned 41 items that you cannot access foreign exchange to bring it to Nigeria. Now, what do? Backward integration. By the time we grow our economy, believe in our people will develop Nigeria. If you don't do that, you're simply paying lip service to the issue of national growth. Now, value system is key. The elites are greedy. I'm one of them. I'm greedy. I'm number one greedy elite person. If you have a group of elites that are greedy, that do not have patriotism in everything they do not apply patriotism in everything they do, you're going to continue having the kind of thing you're having here. Across the world, Germany doesn't have much. Japan doesn't have much. What do? They exploit the resources of other nations. It's called OPM, OPR, other people's resources. Now they use their intellectual capacity to go around the world, exploit your natural resources, and they take it back to their country, and then they spoil you. Now look at the oil industry, joint venture agreements. We do 60-40. What does Nigeria benefit? Then corruption is very, very key. Many Nigerians are corrupt. I'm sorry to say this. I'm also involved in the process. I work in the private sector. There are a few things that we in the private sector do that affects Nigeria as a nation. Those in the government, the government offices need to also consider the fact that when you don't move those files, then you stop me from the private sector from benefiting from the resources of the nation. We need to first bake the pie before we start sharing the cake. Now, we need to also start talking to our children. What's our leadership socialization process? What's our leadership recruitment process? How do you recruit your leaders? In the Greek amphitheater, your father brings you out and says, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. Now, he begins to train you. By the time your father brings you out and says, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased, you have qualified. He has groomed you from the home. The mothers, the fathers need to start grooming their children from home. And then when they come out in the social space, they're not likely to do certain things because, like I think it was Lincoln that who said it, remember the son of who you are. If you know you have a family name, you're not likely to get into public office and start messing up the whole nation. Then we need to begin to apply justice. Otumba Danfodio said, no country will develop when you raise one tribe above another tribe. Now, if you check all of that, I think it was Martin Luther King Jr. that said that peace is not the absence of war, but the presence of justice. Do we apply justice in all we do? Now, do people get things by merit? Once people begin to feel that this country does not have equitable distribution of resources to everybody, they begin to hit back at the system. That's why you have challenges to security in the north, you have the Niger Delta issues, you have the IPOB and so on. But all I would say to our citizens is, Let old things pass away, and behold, all things become new. Let's believe in the new Nigeria. Nigeria can be great again. The green passport is the best passport. I don't want to go anywhere else.
All right, I like that, the green passport, Mr. Obinna Rakpa. Thank you, because you've already fast-forwarded to even, some of the steps that we really need to take. But let me again go to Kaduna Studio, where General Martins Luther Agwai is. General Agwai, if you listened carefully to Professor Oluwole, she actually gave a development model that she believes can make the country great again, and it's one that is premised on competencies. But I ask, is that necessarily a development pattern that has worked for other major global countries of the world? If you take a look at some of the mint nations, of which Nigeria is one, is this a development pattern that they have adopted, or are there other development models?
Well, thank you very much. What I actually want to say is that, one, I agree to a large extent what the professor said about putting right people with the knowledge to head ministries and other things. But I think that if you really groom and prepare people for leadership position, what they can do as ministers is to annex all that you have in that ministry. And that ministry is made up of experts in the field that they are. Take, for instance, the ministry, let me talk where I know best, the Ministry of Defense. If you have all the people in the Military of Defense that are professional, clued up, know about strategy, know about what makes the defense and the security of a nation thick, you then have a person as a leader who is prepared and who has the knowledge to annex all these resources within the ministry to achieve the national goal. And that is where I want to, what really, I believe that all of us in this country should know what is our national value. What is our 10 years, 20, 50 years development plan? What are people in the ministry and in the field doing? Is there coordination and collaboration and synergy between all the government and the private, between the government and the private sector? How well is our private sector? Because I believe that the government is not really the engine of providing jobs and employment. The government is there, I think, is to annex, control, provide policies that will move us forward. Rather than being a player, I think government should be more of an umpire to be sure that every game is played according to the rule, while the generality of the private sector and the public sector is working together to achieve that blueprint that government has set up. And I think this has to transcend partisan politics. As a nation, we should have those things that are our core values, and they don't change. Doesn't matter which party or government comes into play. What parties can do and or government can do is to modify a flexible way of what they think we can achieve those core values. But if we do not have those things and we do not instill those value system right from our primary up to our tertiary institution and up to the whole nation, then I think that is one of the other things that will really impede our becoming a great nation that we are overdue to become.
Thank you very much, General Martins Agwai. We'll come back to you as well as other guests on the show, but we'll quickly take the tweets that have come in. It's interesting to note that everyone looks forward to having this country great again. And we'll start off with that of Arushola Ahoglord. He said, Nigeria, that's Nigeria now, will be great again if our leaders are truly sincere in their dealings, sincerity of heart and purpose.
All right, Festus Akimbo Iwa tweets, Nigeria can be great if we do away with faulty planning, short-sighted leadership and corruption. We need to go back to the basics.
Sani Michael Omakoji, interesting topic. To make Nigeria great again, we must kick aside individualism and nepotism in governance.
And Ibrahim to the tweets, we've started saying it. Greatness is coming and it's here to stay. Nigeria is back to its greatness. We have been a great country.
Sani Michael again says we must rely heavily on technology to fight corruption instead of using traditional methods that are out of date.
Okay, and Haruna Ishak tweets, Nigeria can be great if we all believe in what we have in Nigeria, not on what other countries have.
Kano Abdulkadri says our problem is bad leadership and reticent citizenry.
Again, Ibrahim to the tweets, if we build systems, institutions, and above all, restore citizens' trust in Nigerian projects, certainly, next bus stop is greatness. I like that.
Kerry Michelia, love is Nigeria's critical success factor. Love is the only way we need to love Nigeria and Nigerians more than we love ourselves.
All right, and this one comes from TJ Alhaji, and it says, Nigeria can be great again if government can implement developmental policies with all sincerity and openness. We'd like to thank all of you, and we expect, of course, the tweets to keep coming in.
Okay, let's return to Lagos, where we still have Professor Oluwole seated alongside with Mr. Judenwo. Now, Mr. Judenwo, let's take a look at your own position. Yes, you were named by Forbes as one of Africa's best 30 under 30 entrepreneurs, and it's a critical stage of life to actually see what you could actually do for the country. But then there's this spirit, let's say it's a wave that the youth don't actually believe in what the nation can actually do. It's as if they've lost that hope. Where do you stand? And let's take a look at how much of undermining we have really done to ourselves in those areas that we can be made great.
First, it's the American president-elect that has popularized the slogan, Make America Great Again. And you would see that the prevailing sentiment that drove his success was a distrust of institutions, mostly by young people who have been dealt a bad hand. And so globally, young people are angry at what they have seen to be a system or a generation of leaders that have short-circuited their development and have stolen their promise, so to speak. So Nigeria is not necessarily an outlier in that case. There are globally young people who are angry and frustrated and tired of being led by people who they consider to not be interested in their long-term progress. I mean, one of the running jokes amongst young Nigerians is how they say 30 years ago, certain people said young people are the future of Nigeria. 30 years after, the same people are telling young people that they are the future of Nigeria. When exactly will these young people manifest that futureness, so to speak? So young people are angry, and they have a right to be. And they have a right to be because the country that they have been handed over to, they've been dealt a bad hand. They've been dealt a bad hand by the same people. These people have not taken responsibility for the bad hand that they have dealt the rest of the citizens. And these people want to lecture younger people on how exactly younger people should run the country that the people talking to them didn't run well. So that's the crux of it. Now, in terms of undermining, I think that we need to put that into a bit of context. I don't think that any young people are even in the position to undermine Nigeria. I mean, if people speak ill of their country, it's not because they don't love their country. It's not because they don't care for their country. It's because they are angry at the wasted potential of their country. It's like a mother who's beating her child or who is scolding her child. It doesn't mean she doesn't love the child. it means she loves the child so much that she has decided that telling the child the truth is important. So what many young people across Nigeria are doing is they are tired of coddling Nigeria. They are tired of petting and pampering a country that has refused to fulfill its promise. They've decided that it's time to get angry and not just useless, purposeless, destructive anger, but the kind of anger that changes bad leaders, that innovates instead of complaining, that demands better from the people around us and from ourselves, so that this country can truly begin its journey towards greatness.
All right, thank you very much, Chude, there. But Professor Sophie Oluwole, I'd like you to respond to what Chude has talked about. And in addition to that, I also like you to talk about value addition, because two principles that have become recurrent in this conversation are values and, of course, leadership and principles. How pivotal are societal values in determining, how a country achieves its greatness? We understand that as we speak, China, of course, has started implementing a policy of teaching her traditional values in schools.
Thank you very much. Let me clarify what I think people misunderstand. The minister does not execute the ministry. He designed development program for the ministry. And if there's a development program for the ministry, the young people will take care of it. The development program for Greek, I can decide to be a farmer. If for medicine, I can be. For teaching, I can be a teacher. Now, the ministers are supposed to identify areas of development. Government is for formalization. It is government that will give a minister of education a particular amount of money to be spent. The minister does not run anything. The ability of the minister and the people will do it. Let me give an example. When free primary education was introduced in Western Nigeria, it was not the minister, it was not the premier, it was the man who executed it. He made a proposal. What proposal are you making for development in economic, in medicine, in agric, and so on? Secondly, you spoke of traditional medicine. I could remember very well when the government in this country allowed traditional doctors to enter the hospital, they said no. I have evidence and I can show everybody. Traditional medicine men in Nigeria complete cure for stroke. A professor of medicine from Ibadan walked into my office. He had stroke. He was cured at Ijebu-Igbo. He said he wasted his life spending Western medicine. Let us combine Western and African and know what is best for this country. Now, let's talk of morality. Do you know in America, brown envelope is legal? In the ministry, you can give brown envelope. I remember, Americans were accused of going to produce things in India because there's corruption. He said, I don't care for corruption, I want my goods. Corruption is a national issue. It's for the government to talk about. But producing agriculture, there's nowhere you cannot have corruption. But what are you producing before corruption comes in? We should fight corruption. But corruption, you are fighting it where? You are not producing anything, you are not manufacturing anything. Anywhere in the world that human being there's corruption, and we should fight it. It's a national issue. It's a policy. But development is not, when there's no corruption, you will develop. You may develop without corruption, I don't know. But you must work. So I know that morality is very important. We should not fight each other. The Yoruba, the Igbos, they have their own values. Fighting cultures and different people is unnecessary. That will not make us develop. When the Igbos were developing oil, nobody was fighting them. When the Hausa were producing groundnut, do they force us to come and produce groundnut in the West? We are producing cocoa. Now, we left cocoa, cocoa is back. Now, all of us are back to the farm. What I'm saying, let us have development programs, issues of morality, of financing and so on. That is formality by government. The government is supposed to give the right money, but they cannot execute. So if there is no development in education, in medicine, in agric, in everything, I don't see how Nigeria can develop. But at every point, there will be corruption. There will be tribal sentiment. That is what government should be talking about. The government is sitting in Abuja, they don't know whether my father is planting cocoa in Ibadan, and they want to develop. Suppose there is no corruption in this country. Are you developed? Development will bring corruption. We must fight corruption.
Professor Sophie Oluwole, if you listen to Chude, clearly, he did say that the youths, of course, who are the asset of this great nation, are not particularly happy, you know, with the pattern of development. And I'd like you to respond to that.
You know the problem of, I was in my office, a boy walked to my office and said, Mommy, I graduated 4 years ago, I have no employment. My question was very simple. What do you do? BSc Economics. What does that qualify you to do? BA Religious Studies, BA Philosophy. You work to my office, you want to work. Which work? Then I encourage him and the others that I have a farm, I want to put chicken and pigeons there. I say I cannot do that type of job. Please, can you tell me what BSc Economics can do? BSc Philosophy, BSc History, BSc Religious. All the religious studies are very clever now. They can start a church and make a lot of money. But what of children who want to work? The education we give our children in this country just to have a certificate. What does it qualify them to do? I always say to the university before I retired, what does your degree qualify you to do? You cannot plant. I planted 1,000 plantains this year because somebody encouraged me. I did philosophy, didn't tell me how to plant plantain. Now, children want to work. They want to earn money. We have to go back to education. What do you train your children to do when they leave school? School certificate, yes. PhD, yes. And so what? Now, what I'm saying, our education must be functional. It must prepare children to do something. A young man who wants to work and he works to my office and he cannot do anything, am I the one to train him? That's what I say. Development in this country should be based on education. If you are in the Greek, I remember Nigerian sent agricultural students to Germany. I was there. Then after 3 years, they were asked to go to the farm to drive trailers. They said they want to go home. They didn't come to learn agriculture. They want to know land theory. Theory in agriculture, you cannot do anything. The German said you should go home. How can you be an agriculturer who cannot work on the farm? Our youth must be prepared for something. They must have capacity. And they are looking for work. But they must have competence in that work. You cannot go to the ministry and sit down and say you want to work. Which work? We have to review our education, the system, work and the child do. Even in the economics, there are some things we must learn. Let me repeat myself. Development means improving different aspects of the society, agriculture and so on. You must train people there. They must have competence so that when they go out, they can even do it on their own. So, employment, yes, but you cannot employ every youth. But the child must be qualified to do something and he can do it. If you don't do that, then you have deposited the child. The child spend all the money, paid the money, went to the university, is on the street. What can you do? Nothing. How can we develop when your youth cannot? They don't have the competence to work. They are looking for work but have no competence.
Professor Oluwole, thank you very much for your insights there. We'll quickly go over to Kaduna. General Agwe, it's a whole lot on the mind of the young Nigerian, as explained by Mr. Judo Wode. Now, where do you stand? Professor Oluwole too has raised some other areas of interest that we should look at, that of national indiscipline. Youth, developments, and also the disconnect for the Nigerian spirit.
Well, I always have been lucky to go around virtually all the parts of this country, and I have worked while I was in service in nearly all the states in this country. So I have found we have wonderful young people, very innovative and creative. But like the professor said, what have we really done to annex all this, their knowledge? One of the challenges I have found out, and I can see why the young people are frustrated, is that we don't have a consistent value. If you today is 3 years at the junior secondary school, then they go to university, tomorrow we have another change. Consistently, virtually every time, we don't have a policy that is consistent. We keep changing virtually after every new leadership that comes into our society. And that's why I still believe that we have to have a long-term policy that all of us understand and are prepared to follow. Our educational system should go with the time. As the professor rightly said, we just educate people. We believe that going to university and earning a degree must give you a job. No, it just gives you knowledge. And then now, what do you use that knowledge for? And we find that we think government will provide all the jobs. And sometimes the government itself pretends that she can do it. No. I think in virtually all developed and well-organized society is the private sector that is the engine mover. They are the one that will utilize this knowledge that our youth have. And our curriculum should be that, as the professor said, to prepare young people leaving university with something they can do on their own, that they can turn on their own, employ themselves, and not running around looking for jobs because maybe in the 50s, once you finish university, you have a job. We're not in the 50s. We have moved on, and people are even working from home. People are no longer going to offices. They work from home because of the ICT that we have, information technology today. So I think we have to move with time. And I can understand why sometimes the young people are not patient. They are not patient because they have a lot of energy. And this energy must be channeled to a useful purpose. And we should have those policies that encourage these young people to be part of the conversation of how we develop and how we improve from where we are. But if we think that it is only one section or one group or one profession that will make it, I think we're making a great mistake. We should work together. We need all the experience from the young people. The older people can direct and channel them. But honestly, if we do not provide enough things for the young people, we allow them to lose hope in the country and in themselves, then we are in trouble, because we will have a lot of insecurity, and then we will waste a lot of our time instead of planning for development and progress on how to contain insecurity.
All right, General Agwe, thank you. Thank you very much. Back to Abuja. Mr. Obina, you're listening to him. If I may just summarize, all that he has talked about, the youths being angry with the system. Yeah. He believes it could be lack of patience, but you have interacted directly, with the youth in the course of your, development training. What do you think could be the cause of, the youth anger, and what impact, or how might it have impacted, on the nation's growth?
Now, the youth want to get involved. We want to be involved. We want to be part of the system. A situation where you have 63-year-olds serving as youth leaders in political parties. You have people in the youth ministries who are above the age of 35. Now, those are issues. The youth want to be part of it. This country belongs to every one of us.
Are they impatient?
Yeah, we have a right to be impatient because we are part of the system. Like Jidon said, we've always been told that we're the youths, we're the leaders of tomorrow. When will tomorrow ever come? When will that tomorrow ever come? Now, a 20-year-old is youth minister in Dubai. The Dubai you're talking about came out of a vision. You know who created the vision. Now, when the second in command in Dubai came up with a vision, he implemented it, and the youth drove Dubai. If you go to other countries, the Asian tigers are made up of youths. Almost everywhere you go to. Mark Zuckerberg, how old is Mark Zuckerberg? Now, who has, which country still runs gerontocracy? It's only in Africa, where you have 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds running countries. How old was Barack? Now, if you look at entrepreneurs, we're not entrepreneurial in the way we do things. Donald Trump won election not because you believed in him, not because I believed in him, but because he was an entrepreneur. He had ideas to sell, and he could create wealth. Who creates wealth? The young people are ready to create wealth. But we need the space to be able to create that wealth. You need to look at the educational system like Prof said and like General Boy said. What is the educational system we have? Who is teaching who? Now, who is teaching entrepreneurship in the universities? The same lecturers that taught me who could not power a laptop in the computer science department are they the ones that are teaching entrepreneurship, teaching computer science. Now, you need to look at employability skills. Who taught us? Who trained the youths? Now, it was all we're given that we're giving out to the society. We were not trained to go and create wealth. We were trained to collect certificates and go out there and seek for jobs. So we're doing exactly what you told us to do. So you shouldn't complain. Now, what we need to do is that, like I said earlier, let all things pass away. Let's just rebuild Nigeria. Like Trump said, make America great again. Make Nigeria great again. America has the American dream. What is the Nigerian dream? Now, we say, be the change you want to see. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. That's Mahatma Gandhi. Now, we say, change begins with me. Okay, take me for an example. I did first degree. At the age of 20, I was already a graduate. 21, I was in master's class. 23, I was in PhD class. But I just realized, like the Igbo people said, that the handsomeness of a man is not his face, but his pocket. I had to face reality and dirty my hands. A sandy hand begets an oily mouth. That's entrepreneurship. It begins with my mindset. What was my mindset? I told myself that there was no job in Nigeria. I started taking yams from Doma. I've said it on this platform before. Back to Owerri for my mother. In April of 2016, I saw the opportunity that tomato was scarce. I simply called someone in Jos, send me 8 baskets of tomatoes. It was 18,000 in Otaku market. I gave it to the men's fellowship of my church at 13,000 and I still made over 3,000 each basket. I am a personal development trainer. Now, I don't want to be seen as being a motivational speaker that does not practice what I preach. So everybody needs to get their hands dirtied. The young people want to do that, but if you don't show them the way to follow, they would never follow it. So review the curriculum. Let us look at employability skills. If you must employ, then tell the young people that they need to create wealth. Now, there are a lot of things you can do in Nigeria. Every local government area in Nigeria has one product. Smedan says one local government, one product, which we learned from Japan. In Japan, in every prefecture, everybody produces something. Now, an NEPC has one state, one product. Now, NEPC has it as a document, and I'm not castigating anyone. Have we gone to the NYSC to say wherever you serve, whatever is available in local government area, can we know palm oil, potato, Irish and sweet, and so on? If Eclair, I brought you a basket of Irish potato on January 2, 2017, you will be very glad that I gave you that as a gift. I mustn't give you biscuits and chocolates and so on that are almost expired that came from abroad. Now, as long as we're not earning foreign exchange, we're not going to make progress. And the youths are the ones that can galvanize all of this from the ground. So what do? Look at NIRP, Nigerian Industrial Revolution Plan. It's been there since 2014. What are we doing with it? It's there sitting in Trade and Investment Ministry. As I speak to you today, I have a trademark, access to market, registered with my own money. So I didn't have to borrow money from the bank. We have BOI that is giving out money for youth employment scheme, the YES program. You have all schemes that are there. You've had 220 billion naira sitting in the Central Bank of Nigeria. Only 40.4% of that money, 40.4 billion, has been disbursed. Now, I need to ask, who have you given this money? Have you trained them on entrepreneurship? I'm the National Assistant Secretary of the Enterprise Development Center for Atlantic University in Lagos Business School. What do? I have over 3,000 graduates that I have in my database. If you position them as strategic locations, if you, as a civil servant, needs to retire, are you sure you're ready?
All right. We will ask you if the youths can take the bull by the horn. If but that's after we've taken our tweets. Blessing.
Anyway, from Grace again. May God bless Mama for that. Yes, it's true to make Nigeria great. I love what Mama said. Mama said so many things, so I believe.
All right. Michael Sandy Amakuji is sending us his tweet again, and it says PMB's led administration should do away with party affiliation. Al Hassan says 2 + 2 = 5, because in the law of sequence 0 before the decimal point is positive.
Haruna Ishak, we always said we want Nigeria to be great, but we don't want to patronize the small and medium-scale industry products.
All right, and Ibrahim's system tweet, the only way is to strengthen our institutions, not the heads of the institutions. Again, the only way is to strengthen our institutions, not the heads of the institutions. We don't have optimal performing institutions.
From Henry Chibike Ugu, when political appointment and public employment are based on merit, quota system, zoning, etc. must always be subject to merit.
And Fatai Adebi states, greatness by choice, but only the choice of our leaders that are ready to shun injustice and impunity. Once again, I'd like to thank all of you for sending in your tweets.
Okay, back to the guest in Lagos, Professor Oluwale, as well as Mr. Jidawo. Now, let's have a feel for nationalists of old towards independence. Every one of them actually vowed to dedicate their life, especially we'll take that of Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, dedicate his life to the service of the nation. It would appear that it's this increasingly difficult moment to actually entrench in us the spirit of selfless dedication and value and commitment to this project, whether from the youth, even from the older generation. Why is it increasingly difficult to actually entrench the spirit of selfless dedication to the Nigerian project?
Thank you very much. I want to thank the great general. He went around this country and he saw children with new innovations. I could remember in the last 2 months or so, when there was a fight against oil something, they discovered 17 places where Nigerians were making oil. They were making oil. It was illegal, yes, but they had the capacity to produce oil. What have you done to those people? You sent them to jail. I am not saying yes, but the capacity to produce oil from the raw, what did you do about it in Nigeria? Nothing. You remember after the Civil War, a factory was discovered underground. The guns made there were better than those made in America. Where are those guns? I'm not saying we should, but we are buying guns. We stop the people who have the capacity to produce. Now, let us be frank. Whether you're a professor of philosophy or mathematics, a minister or so, corruption is everywhere in the world. It's about human relationship. And I don't know where corruption is allowed or is sanctioned. But can you tell me American government is not corrupt? I'm not saying it is their value. They fight it, but when you have to deal with human beings, but what I'm saying, what are you doing? Are you producing anything? What are you making in Nigeria? Economy is money derived from what you make. And as I told you, there's oil at the Atlantic Ocean. America carried it away. They made it, they bring it for you, they determine the price and everything. And you want to develop. Now that they say no, the economy is down. Why don't we look home? See what are the resources, what we can make of what we have. That's what Indians are doing. We can make medicine, but tell the medicine. Can you remember Abalaka? For 13 years, he was prevented from executing medicine. The day he was given, he wept because thousands of people have died in 13 years. Why are you not open to encourage people? I'm not saying when they bring it, take it. Test it. If it works, you can develop. If Nigeria can produce the medicine for stroke, as the professor told me, do you know how much money you can make for medicine for stroke, which the white man does not have? Today, they don't have the money for stroke. But suppose you can prove that some people have the medicine for stroke. How will your economy be affected? Are you not developing? What I'm saying is let us do to produce our natural resources. In the process, there will be corruption. We must fight corruption. But if you are fighting corruption, when there is no work, a child who has no work is going to steal money. Oh. A boy is looking for work, he must eat. Your corruption will be promoted. But when you promote our technology, our knowledge, corruption will be reduced. Because when I have money, I'm not likely to leave it and go and steal money. The rate will be lower. But when I have nothing, I will go out in the night too. Development means using your natural resources, the natural capacity of Nigeria to develop what you have. In the process, everything will come up. It's human relationship. That's why God are not sin. That are not tell lies. We know that our human beings will sin, we tell lies. But is that your profession? It is in your profession that you tell lies. Let us develop the natural capacity of our children, of our resources. In the process, government will now make sure corruption is reduced. Stealing is reduced. But when you are not doing anything, corruption will be more. People have nothing, will be corrupt, they will steal. That's what I'm saying. Development means promoting what you have so that you can attain something. But corruption will crop up anything you do, and we must fight it.
Prof, just before we let you go, and I'd like you to quickly take this question briefly before we now bring in Chude, to, of course, respond to some of the things that you have talked about. Now, some countries actually attained independence just the same period that Nigeria did. And if you look at among the mint countries, Malaysia, for instance, some of them didn't have, resources. Malaysia came to Nigeria to borrow her seedlings. And Japan, for instance, was also engulfed in crisis. But these are nations that have gone ahead to thrive. So is there anything in their psyche that predisposed them to greatness that we don't have? Briefly, Prof.
When I travel between Lagos and Ibadan, I cry. I see thousands of palm trees wasting. Those people came to borrow it. They are not wasting it. What are you making from palm trees? Do you have any palm tree for production of oil in this country? Do you know you can make more than 75 items from palm tree? Who is looking at it from the Ministry of Agriculture? Cassava. We are the largest producer of cassava in the world. Zimbabwe has only one leaf. It is cassava leaves. We throw away the cassava leaves in Nigeria. Why don't we export it to Zimbabwe? That's what I mean. We are not using what we have. We are not developing what we have. And we will have money. You can make millions from palm oil. So many things. You can make millions from cassava. It is only now you want to use cassava flour for flour. You are importing wheat. How can you develop? Develop your natural resources. Develop the natural capacity of Nigerians. And let us promote and make this country great.
Hey, Professor Luwale, thank you very much. Let's quickly have your feel. I asked a question about why is it increasingly difficult to actually entrench in us that spirit of selfless dedication and commitment to what we believe in, whether as youth or old people for Nigeria.
I'm going to look for a bit of trouble. The reason why it's difficult, I think, to entrench this spirit is because it probably didn't exist in the past. I've heard your people say, look, if we claim that all the people who have led this country in the past, who founded this country, were great and selfless people, then how did our country end up the way it is? They couldn't have been that selfless if we've had corruption in the civil service for 4 decades. It couldn't have been that great if we've had coups and counter-coups by the same people who are leading our country today. It couldn't have been that great if it had businesses that were not properly managed, didn't have proper succession plans, were not able to survive 5 years, 10 years, couldn't survive beyond the death of the founders of those companies. So it is questionable as to whether young people today have role models from the past, truly, about selflessness, about integrity, and about vision. So I think that that's really the problem that we have. So the young people today are having to discover these values for themselves, by themselves, without any true system. Doesn't mean that they are not individual role models or individual stars, but as a collective, we do not, young people didn't come into a country that was defined by selflessness and integrity. They came into a country that was defined by visionlessness and corruption and antiquity. And you can't plant cassava and somehow expect oranges. It's not going to happen. Where do we expect the selflessness to come from? So we really need to think a bit deeper about that. And then I just want to emphasize something that Professor Luwale has been saying, because the remarkable discipline with which she has insisted upon that is important. Now, people are fighting. She's talking about the fight against corruption. And then she's saying that the primary function of government is to create wealth, is to create a good life for its citizens. You need to create things to make life livable for citizens. That is the first and primary purpose. Now, in the midst of creating wealth, you will have an interplay of relationships that leads to corruption, and that will be expected. And then you fight the corruption that ensues. But it appears that you are putting the cart before the horse. The first And primary thing is that we have a generation of unemployed young people who don't believe in the future of their country because they don't have wealth, they don't have health, they don't have security. We need to first focus on providing that functional, wealthy country for them. If we don't do that and we keep focused on everything else, this will never change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chudida. Let's get back to Kaduna, where, of course, General Agwe is. General Agwe, the last comment, what kind of policy do you think we should, of course, be coming up with that would direct, of course, to the youths, to the vision of the youths?
Well, let me, before directly answering that question, to say I think there have been, we are talking on the same leaf with all the discussion. And I do appreciate that we cannot run away from our past. The real thing is that what I have seen and I have experienced in this country is that it's our turn. That is a common phrase. And then and up to today I'm asking, who is this our? If you are in the position of leadership, you are leading, governing, or administering a particular entity, and everybody in that entity is our. But when we have policies, when some of us deliberately want to come up with policies that favor particular, either as we behave individual, then we think of our community, then we start thinking of maybe our local government or our state, then maybe we think of our religion, then the last thing we think of is our country. And I think unless we start from the top, because our religion or our individual cannot export anything out of this country. It is the country itself that can allow export. So we must have policies that create that development. And I totally agree with some of the points that were made. We have to know where we are coming from. And a lot of things have gone wrong. And what I agree is that we don't have to draw a line and say, from today henceforth, this is the type of policy and the type of things we want. And I don't mind 90-year person can rule, but everybody must be inclusive or must be included in the decision making. And who are the bulk of the people that any policy affects? Are the youth. So the youth must have a say. They don't have to be ministers. I do not say so, but they must have a say in what is happening because they are the majority. And they are the ones that have a lot of energy to implement or turn those policies into success and into development. So it's a collective responsibility, I think, that we need. I think that we should, and what I have been saying, annexing. Yes, if we have people making illegal guns, if we have people making illegal oil bunkering and the oil is refined to the degree that is accepted, what we then need to do is to annex those people into this. Let me just pause and say a little thing about my personal experience. Just when I was the Chief of Defense Staff of Nigeria, I was made to head a committee to revive defense cooperation industry in Kaduna. And the machines that were there were those that came around then we went out to those countries that manufactured these machines, and we found we couldn't get spare parts. We then sat as a committee and looked inward. And honestly, it opened my eye that this country is talented with a lot of innovative and knowledgeable people. And all the equipment, we put back the machines in Daikon functioning, were all by Nigerians. We went to Oshogbo, Till, Mill, and other areas, and we got people. They fabricated the spare parts that we couldn't get anywhere in the world, because those who manufactured those things in the 60s and 70s have gone forward. But our people were able to do it. So I am believing and I'm confident that all that is required in this country is to sit down and annex what we have, and then the leadership provide the focus and the policies and the direction that people should follow. And I believe that Nigeria will be and will be one of the greatest, because we have the population, we have the landmass, we have the resources. So all that is needed now is to put all these things together, and I will make bold to say that by the 2022 we're talking, we should also be in space like everybody. We have everything that it takes. But what I think we don't have is that we don't prepare people for leadership. We don't prepare people for the challenges. We allow ourselves to think so small of our ethnic group, of our religion, and forget that the holy places in all this world, you can't go there just because you are a Christian or a Muslim or this. You must have your passport and a visa. If it is so free, why don't you go there? So I think we have to get back and think first as Nigerians. Then all other things will fall into it, and we will be great, if not greatest.
All right, thank you very much, General. I agree. We go back to just saying goodbye to every one of you. But Mr. Urakwa, there is the question of the national indiscipline in achieving, which is stalling achieving national goal. Briefly, how do we change this narrative? Most critical way to change it.
Lead by example. Let the change begin with the president. Lead by example. Now, the ministers and whoever, governors and so on. Now, when my people will say, when the mother goat is eating grass, the children look at the mouth. Your children observe you more than what you say. Now, we the young people are looking up to our leaders today. That's positional leaders, that is to say, this is the way, and we're ready to follow. Now, let's just make up our mind to rebuild Nigeria. We're already down. Economically and otherwise, there are challenges. Can we sit down and come to a round table, like General said, and discuss how to move Nigeria forward? The young people have a right, not just to be, you don't have to just harness our potentials. We also want to lead like you have led. How old was General Aguirre when he was leading peacekeeping, and how old was he when he became a general? Now we need to ask, I'm already 46 by this year. What have I held? What have other young people held? You don't know he's 30. At this age, you should be leading one thing or the other, even if it's councillor. But you have old people leading as councillors and position leaders elsewhere. But that's just beside the point. Let's come down to the round table. This country belongs to every one of us. Let's discuss, come up with our blueprint. I'll give you some sectoral examples that will shock you.
You have to be very brief.
Very brief. Very. Now, if you do look at housing, look at power and works, just housing. If you can build 1 million houses, you can create 30 million jobs. And you take these young people off the streets. You have masons, you have bricklayers, you have people supplying food to the site. Now, we have Nigerians in diaspora who are repatriating over $24 billion every year. That's what India survives upon. Now, you can get 60 billion every year. You know what I'm talking about. Now, these are conscious things. I'll give you just one last example. What I'm wearing now could have been worn by the 76,000 people that were flown out of Nigeria for Hajj this year. What is the economy of Hajj? India flew out 260,000 people. We flew out 76,000 people for Hajj. We flew people for pilgrimage. Makut just came back from pilgrimage. Now, I need to ask you, if every Nigerian that went for pilgrimage dressed in this, produced by a young player, fashion designer, will bring dollars into Nigeria.
Mr. Obinna, thank you very much for all the examples that you have given. Mr. Obinna Urakwa is a personal development trainer and entrepreneur. And, of course, he joined us in the conversation this morning. Thank you, Mr. Urakwa.
Thank you.
We also like to thank, of course, General Martins Luther Agwe. He was a former Chief of Defense Staff of the Nigerian Armed Forces and Commander Joint United Nations and African Union Peacekeeping Mission in the 4 region. We'd like to thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And also from Lagos studio is Professor of Philosophy, Professor Sophie Olowale. Mama, thank you very much for finding time to join our conversation this morning and for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you very much.
And finally, but certainly not the least, is our very own Chude Jidenwo, who is, of course, the co-founder and managing partner of RED, and he also Forbes, one of the Africa's best 30 entrepreneurs, under 30 entrepreneurs. Mr. Chude Jidenwo, thank you very much for making us proud.
Thank you, and have a happy new year.
You too. And so to all of you, we wish you a happy 2017 and wish our dreams come true. And moving on now to the foreign scene, the new Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, has called for peace as he assumes office as the 9th UN Secretary General. Also, on the package, a deal has been signed to end DR Congo's Joseph Kabila's 15-year rule. Here is Yemi Ajay with the details.
The new UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, has assumed office on January 1, 2017 as the 9th UN Secretary General after Ban Ki-moon's exit following the completion of a 10-year tenure on December 31. In his maiden message as the UN Secretary General entitled Appeal for Peace, Guterres urged the world to make New Year resolution and put peace first. Guterres was sworn in on December 12, 2016 as the 9th Secretary General of the United Nations. A deal has been signed to end Joseph Kabila's 15-year rule in the Democratic Republic